All right, guys, we're going to rock and roll here shortly. We have video of the shooting that happened on the downtown mall from over the weekend. What's going down in this community, in the city of Charlottesville, man? Gun violence has turned into like a more front and center concern than ever before. We're going to talk about this shooting, show you the video, and ask some very real questions. There's so many layers to this onion. There's the shooting, and is it related to the shooting that happened at the Omni a couple weekends ago? There's the gun violence in totality. And whether this is an escalating issue. There's the concern of whether this is a gang or turf war of some kind, and that's why we're seeing it happening so frequently. There's the Charlottesville Police Department angle where the CPD is significantly understaffed. There's the do you feel safe going in downtown Charlottesville at night angle. There's the is downtown Charlottesville getting a brand or stigma that's unsafe. There's that angle. There's the angle of if downtown Charlottesville is perceived as unsafe at night, which I do not think it is, but if it is perceived this way, what is that going to do to the jurisdiction from a revenue standpoint? We have video from the shooting on the downtown mall. Give the show a like and a share anywhere you are watching. Hammer the like button. We work hard for you. Carol Thorpe, thank you. We work hard for you, and the only thing we ask in return is you participate in the show, share the show, interact with the show, and spread the gospel. That's literally the only thing we ask in return from you guys. Judah Wickower is our director. We're going to rock and roll in about 20 seconds. Judah, I'm going to weave you in about 10 minutes into the show on a two-shot. So get ready to rock with that. Viewers and listeners, join us with this discussion, please. Please join us with this discussion, viewers and listeners. Oh, man. All right, Jude, I need T-minus 10 seconds here. I'm getting direct messages and text messages fast and furious about this shooting. Fast and furious right now. Including from business owners on the mall. We also touch base with our contact in the CPD this weekend about vacancies in the department. All right, J-Dubs, let's rock. Good Monday afternoon, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to the I Love CVille show. Thank you kindly for joining us. Pleasure to connect with you guys on a Monday afternoon here through the I Love CVille network. We're live in Charlottesville, across Albemarle County, Central Virginia, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille network. You, the viewer and listener, can participate in the discussion. You can shape the discussion and direct where we're going as a show. I think you've realized by now there's no one else that's doing content like this, long-form content, uninterrupted by commercials, where you, the viewer and listener, can sit back for an hour and make your own opinion or your mind on the topic we're discussing. They're not sound bites. It's not an 8-minute segment before a commercial break. It's not a 22-minute newscast with 30 seconds allocated per topic. We spend ample time breaking down and analyzing stuff that matters to you, like our children, our safety, our quality of life, the jurisdiction we live in. I was prepared today to continue the discussion about schools on the show. Instead, we got bombarded by, I don't know, a couple hundred at least viewers and listeners over the weekend asking us to talk about the shootings that's happened in Charlottesville. We had more of them on Sunday morning as the bars were closing or just before the bars were closing in downtown Charlottesville. 1 a.m. in that vicinity to be exact. I'll give you the headlines that are pretty much all you're getting from legacy media. The headline is from the Daily Progress: Charlottesville mall shooting leaves 1 dead and 2 injured. This happened on the Omni side of the mall. The Omni side of the mall is the busy, popular side of the mall. Interestingly, 2 weekends ago, there was another shooting on the Omni side of the mall. This in the Omni parking lot. The one from 2 weekends ago took place during broad daylight. The one from Sunday morning, Saturday night as the bars were letting out, 1 a.m. Sunday morning, took place under the cloak of darkness. Here's the nitty-gritty from what I've been told from numerous folks that are privy with information. You had a man with a gun that was essentially hunting another man. The man with the gun had beef with this other man. This other man ducked into a bar on the downtown mall on the Omni side. He ducked into this bar on the Omni side of the mall, looking for cover or to hide. Long story short, the man with the gun found the guy he was hunting and proceeded to unload an entire clip of bullets to try to kill this person. In the process of trying to kill another man, the shooter happened to hit 2 innocent bystanders. We have gunfire in downtown Charlottesville on multiple weekends. This time, a murder. The shooter hasn't been caught. He's still out there. The release from the Charlottesville Police Department indicated that the community and the police department doesn't believe the community, the police department doesn't believe the community is at danger right now. I say, what? There's a shooter at large that murdered someone, and we're not to worry about this? I'm going to ask the following questions today on the show. How do we keep future shootings from happening in and around Charlottesville, Virginia? What do we think is going on with these shootings? Do we think an increased police presence would prevent these shootings from happening? Are the massive vacancies within the Charlottesville Police Department a contributing factor to gun violence in this city? These are fair and applicable questions. We also have video from the downtown mall, which we are going to relay to you. This video was from a webcam or a camera that was perched above the mall, close to where the shooting happened. When we play this video, Judah, you make sure the audio is present, okay, sir? Judah Wickhauer is our talented director. I'm going to let you know when this video is going to play. I want you, the viewers and listeners, to watch the screen and, even more importantly, listen to the audio. Listen to the audio. Before I play the video from the downtown mall, I've got to get a few things off my chest. We are human beings, and it's logical to connect dots. 2 Saturdays ago, in the Charlottesville Omni Hotel parking lot, 2 teenagers were shot. 3 teenagers were later arrested in relation to the shooting that happened in broad daylight of the Omni Hotel. I'll give it to you again, very simplistically. 2 weekends ago, 2 teenagers were shot. The 2 teenagers went to the hospital. The Thursday after the shootings, 3 teenagers were arrested for these daytime shootings in the Omni Hotel parking lot. One of the 2 teens that was shot is still in the hospital as we speak. The 3 teenagers that were arrested are at the Blue Ridge Detention Center and face felony charges. This all straightforward, relayed by the Commonwealth's attorney, Joe Plantania, the top cop in the city of Charlottesville. This past weekend, at 1 a.m. on Sunday morning, so basically Saturday night, there was a man with a gun who was hunting another man with a gun. I'll clarify that. In fact, I'm going to strike that from the record. I'm not going to assume let's completely strike that from the record, what I just said. I'll be clear cut with everything I say today. Strike what I just said. I'm going to say what I just said was wrong until we have further proof. What I just said was wrong. I'm going to be straightforward with everything. There was a man with a gun hunting another man. I don't want to assume the other man had any weapon on him at all. Not till I get clarification. A man with a gun was hunting another man. The man who was being hunted went into a bar on the Omni side of the downtown mall. This man went into the bar for cover, to hide for his life. The man with the gun eventually found the man hiding in the bar. This man proceeded to shoot at the man he was hunting many times. The man with the gun killed the man he was hunting, and in the process, 2 other people were struck by stray gunfire. Everything I just relayed to you right there is 100% accurate. As a stakeholder in the community, as a parent and a husband, I have a number of questions going through my mind. Here are some of the questions I have. Is downtown Charlottesville safe? Would I want my wife and child to be in downtown Charlottesville? Is downtown Charlottesville safe after dark? Would I want my wife to enjoy a girls' night in downtown Charlottesville later in the evening, past dinner time? Do we have a gun violence problem in the city of Charlottesville? Is the gun violence problem we have in the city of Charlottesville gang related? Is the gun violence that's taking place in the city of Charlottesville contributed to the massive vacancies within the Charlottesville Police Department? Police that are driving by our studio as we speak. I will put those vacancies in perspective for you. The Charlottesville Police Department has 117 positions, 117 spots within the Charlottesville Police Department. As of late September, so not even a month ago, 33 out of the 117 spots were vacant. 33 of 117 were vacant. That's a vacancy rate within the Charlottesville Police Department of just under 29%. That means basically 1 in 3 spots within the Charlottesville Police Department is unfilled. To put that vacancy number in perspective, let's consider the vacancy rate within the Albemarle County Police Department. Last week, we had on the I Love Seville show, and if you'd like, you can go to iloveseville.com to listen to the interview. We had 2 police officers from the Albemarle County Police Department and the executive director of the Albemarle County Police Foundation. Kate Kaminsky was on the show, the executive director of the Albemarle County Police Foundation, as was Officer Andy Muncie and Officer Joe George. Andy Muncie's job with the Albemarle County Police Department is hiring and recruitment. And the process of doing the show last week with 2 police officers and 1 executive director, the topic of vacancies came up right here on this network. Officer Muncie let our community know that Albemarle County has 155 spots within its police force. Of those 155 spots, 142 of those spots were filled. That means there's 13 vacant spots within the Albemarle County Police Department. That's a vacancy rate of 8.5%. So what does that mean? The vacancy rate within the Charlottesville Police Department is over 28%. The vacancy rate within the Albemarle County Police Department is just over 8%. The crime in Central Virginia happens in the densely populated areas. Charlottesville City. So, common sense, we're common sense people, right? The Charlottesville Police Department essentially has 1 in 3 spots open. The Charlottesville Police Department has the most pressure from a patrolling and crime enforcement standpoint. Should we ask ourselves the question, are the vacancies on the Charlottesville Police Department contributing to the gun violence in the city of Charlottesville? Common sense. If we had more patrol officers on the downtown mall, would we see brazen criminal activity like shooting people in the middle of daylight or shooting people with witnesses everywhere. Let's take it a step further on the show. Let's go a step further. What are the impact of gun violence? What is the impact of gun violence on downtown Charlottesville? My wife said this weekend, I'm not sure I feel super safe there. My friend, who I've been texting with prior to this show, a leader in the community, his wife said she doesn't want to go into her office today in downtown Charlottesville. Numerous community leaders and business owners on the downtown mall have heard from customers, what are you doing to keep me safe while I patronize your business in downtown Charlottesville? If the gun violence escalates, and about 36 hours ago, we had a murder on the downtown mall. If it continues to escalate, what does that do for the brand that is downtown Charlottesville? Take it a step further. And please understand how much skin in the game my family has in downtown Charlottesville. And please understand how much skin in the game your friends and your family and neighbors have in downtown Charlottesville. And please understand the incredible importance of downtown Charlottesville to the overall brand that is Charlottesville and Central Virginia. Do you think the Omni Hotel right now doesn't have a PR team in place that's trying to figure the hell out what's going on? If the violence escalates and continues and people don't patronize downtown Charlottesville, what does that do from a tax revenue standpoint? The revenue diminishes. If the revenue diminishes, where's the revenue to run the jurisdiction come from? It's going to come from rooftops and personal property. If the revenue comes from rooftops and personal property, does that not further gentrify the community and make a more homogeneous and wealthy community? It's all intertwined. We empathize with the family of the murder victim, and we empathize with the victims that were shot. We empathize with the teenagers that were shot a couple of weekends ago in the Omni parking lot. We have no empathy and little sympathy for the shooters and want Commonwealth's Attorney Joe Plantania to prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. We empathize with anyone who witnessed this outside the bar in downtown Charlottesville, and there were many witnesses. I've received a couple of hundred DMs and text messages, emails and phone calls from viewers or listeners, many of them who were present on Saturday morning during this shooting. And they all had one commonality in place. They were terrified for their lives. When you're terrified for your life, you're less likely to return to the place that conjured those emotions. That's called being a human. We have a safety issue. We have a police staffing issue. We have a branding issue. We have a taxable revenue issue. And as someone who works in this line of work, rebuilding a brand is way more difficult than tarnishing it. It takes significant more sweat equity to rebuild, recuperate, rehab, recover, resuscitate a brand than it does to destroy it. Inconspicuously, legacy media has not reported much on this. Is that a byproduct of short-staffed newsrooms? Yes. Yes, it is. Legacy media and their short-staffed newsrooms are pretty much regurgitating press releases these days. The news and the nitty-gritty is happening on a platform like this. Judah Wickhauer is our director. Do you have the video? Tag your friends. I'm going to play the video in about 10 seconds. Carol Thorpe will get to the comments. Ray Cadell will get to the comments. Kevin Yancey will get to the comments. Viewers and listeners, if you have comments, put them in the feed. Viewers and listeners, now is your opportunity. David Butler will get to your comments. Now is your opportunity to tell your friends to watch the show. Philip Dow will get to your comments. Bill McChenzie will get to your comments. Tell your friends now to watch the show. We're about to play the video of the shooting. Tell your friends. I'll give you about 20 seconds before we play it. This is undoubtedly a city council issue. This is undoubtedly a CACVB issue, Charlottesville Albemarle Convention Visitors Bureau issue. This is undoubtedly a Friends of Seville, the nonprofit that replaced the Downtown Business Association of Charlottesville. Friends of Seville, this is undoubtedly an issue of Friends of Seville. And this is undoubtedly an issue that resides here at the I Love Seville Network, which has become the platform of the community. Stakeholders, City Council, stakeholders, Charlottesville Albemarle Convention and Visitors Bureau, stakeholders, Friends of Seville, stakeholders, downtown business owners. The time to work strategically in conjunction with public release, with PR statements, is now. The time to assure the community that you're protecting safety is now. Hiring additional security around your businesses is probably something that's going to be needed. And I want to give the community this message before we play this video. If we think taking money away from the police department to the point that they're operating at a 28% vacancy, 28%, essentially 1 in 3 spots on the police force is vacant. And I want you to remember this. I want you to think about this clearly. If you take all the spots on the police force and the Charlottesville Police Department, there's 117. Many of those 117 spots are administrative spots. They're leadership spots. They're spots that don't leave the office. To say that there are 117 spots does not mean there are 117 patrol officers with boots on the streets. Do you understand what I'm saying? 117 spots is the department in totality. And of those 117, many of them are sitting behind a desk or in administrative capacities, leadership capacities. It does not mean boots on the streets. So the impact of the community from a police patrol is significantly greater than the vacancy rate of 28% because we have few patrol officers. That's why about a month ago, the Charlottesville Police Department issued a press release that said certain crimes will go without a police officer showing up. You're going to have to file your report online, and then we will vet the information that comes through our online portal and determine if you will get a follow-up phone call. Why are they doing that? Because they're understaffed. Why are they understaffed? Because Socialist Seville and many of this community are chomping at the bit to give the police department less money. You heard me correctly. You know what happens when you give the police department less money? You have less boots on the streets. And when you have less boots on the streets, you know what you get? You get brazen or more brazen criminals. And if you don't want to believe that, you're not living in real life. Tell your friends, here it comes. I'm going to play this video in 15 seconds. Are you ready? This is from the perch of a storefront on the downtown mall. It does not capture the exact shooting, but it does capture the amount of gunfire and the terror that was undoubtedly present at roughly 1 a.m. Saturday morning. You have that ready to rock and roll. Please make sure it has audio. I'll count you in. How long is this roughly? 25 seconds? Yeah. It's roughly 25? Thank you, sir. We're going to count in from 7, okay? 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Play it. So this is directly across from 2nd Street there, right? This is directly across from like Violent Crown. We'll play it again for you here. This is directly across from that auxiliary building next to the code building. We'll play this again for you here. Lisa Costello, we'll get to that comment. Carol Thorpe, I agree 100%. Carol Thorpe, the Queen of Jack Jewett, said the CPD stated in its press release, "We would like the public to know that this incident poses no immediate threat to our community." Carol Thorpe then adds this herself: "While this may be true for any one singular event, taken collectively, it is now abundantly clear that the streets of Charlottesville are no longer safe for the public at large, especially after dark. It doesn't matter in which neighborhood or area you may be walking, just know that you are putting your life at risk when you expose yourself at any time of the day or night in any street or around downtown Charlottesville." I want to add some context to this. Here's the context I'm going to add to this. We've taken for granted so long the Mayberry nature of Charlottesville. The Mayberry nature of, you know everybody's name. You walk somewhere in Charlottesville, you're going to get stopped 8 or 10 times with a hello or a conversation or a stop and chat. We've taken advantage in Charlottesville for so long. This has been monikered the best place to live in the world, the best place to live in America. We've taken for granted in Charlottesville all these accolades and this positive press. And because of these accolades and this positive press, our minds and our perspectives and our mentalities have been skewed. I'll give you an example. For so long, interest rates when it came to buying a house were 2, 3, 3.5%. And because those rates were so low for so long, potential buyers became accustomed. They grew to expect these rates because human behavior and social behavior was trained by those rates being so low. So that when rates have spiked well over 7% like they are now, people have sticker shock. They throw their hands in the air and they're like, what the hell is happening? The reality is rates at 7%, 7.5% are very synonymous with historical levels. The human behavior was skewed by the 2 and 3% rates. Just like with shootings in Charlottesville, we've had such little shootings and such positive press. Our human behavior was skewed by the positive accolades. Now, in 2022, the shootings have been present. Maybe the shootings can be contributed to the post-COVID collateral damage, where we went a couple of years of people not interacting with each other. Maybe the shootings can be contributed to the desensitization of violence that comes with screen time and our youth watching gunshots and violence on their smartphones and their hands all the time. Maybe the shootings can be contributed to the lack of police presence around a 10.2 square mile city. Maybe the shootings can be contributed to gang violence. Perhaps there's a larger gang presence here than ever before. Maybe the shootings can be contributed to a labor market or inflation where the average Joe and the average Sally can't earn money to keep their families fed and with a roof over their head. The haves have a hell of a lot in this area. The have-nots are struggling to basically keep food on their table. And when the have-nots struggle and struggle and struggle and struggle some more to not keep food on the table, to not pay their electric bill, to not pay their rent, they're going to look for additional income streams, and some will be felonious and nefarious. All these are contributing factors. The economy sucks for so many in this area. You're wealthy and you have money, you're living like a king or queen. You have no money, or you're making $12 an hour, $13 an hour, $10 an hour, $15 an hour in the hospitality and the food and beverage industry, servicing wealthy people. You're pissed, you're angry, you're frustrated, you're aggravated, and you're looking for additional revenue streams, even though they may be illegal. The cost of groceries is higher than ever. The cost of gas is expensive as get out. Inflation is killing people. Certainly those on the financial margin. And you put folks that are struggling, real life struggling to just keep food on their table, and you put them next to folks that have Beamers and Mercedes and Teslas and mansions and buku bucks. Yes, that's going to breed a level of jealousy, resentment, anger, or worse. Compound the matter with a police department that is 30% vacant, basically. Compound the matter with COVID collateral damage, 2 years of not interacting with people in a school where you learn empathy and how to work together and how to walk by each other in a hallway and how to defuse violence. Compound that with screen time and violence on phones, violence that showcases sexual assaults in locker rooms in high schools in Albemarle. Compound that with Snapchat and TikTok and YouTube that has violence on them, where you can see any crime in the world anytime you want with the double tap of your fingers, and this is what you get. And you know what the crappy part about all this is? Here's the crappy part. The locally owned businesses are undoubtedly going to suffer. The quality of life in the town is undoubtedly going to take a hit. The stigma and the brand are certainly going to take a hit. The taxable revenue is going to take a hit. The jurisdiction is going to have to raise the taxes even more to accommodate the loss of revenue that comes with F&B and tourism and lodging. Gentrification will be exasperated. The community is going to get wealthier and more homogenous. Capital improvement projects like school reconfiguration, the improvement of roads, pedestrian lanes, and bike lanes, they're going to be put on the back burner because the revenue ain't there. All that. Play the video again. Do you have it? 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lee Elberson asked this question. Lee, I love you. By this argument, is it unrealistic to see Charlottesville as Mayberry? Are the current conditions the new norm? That's a great question. Two shot. You got one ready to rock? Two shot, J-Dubs, Judah Wickower, jack of all wits. You start anywhere you want to go, then I'll get into the nitty-gritty. You saw the video. Bob Yarborough, the King of Redfield, says, I do not feel, he says, I will say that I remain comfortable visiting downtown Charlottesville, walking its streets, attending concerts, and frequenting businesses. I feel the same. I feel that I still comfortable closing the bars down. Not that I've done this recently. I have a 4.5-year-old and a son that's due Thanksgiving, less than 4 weeks away. But I personally feel comfortable going to a bar in downtown Charlottesville after a concert, closing it down, and getting an Uber home. Now, I will stipulate this, and call this sexist if you want, okay? I call this being a good husband. I would not feel comfortable about my wife doing a girls' night and closing down the bars. I would not feel comfortable with a girls' night and them going to last call and then taking an Uber home. Call that whatever you want. And if you want to give me heat for that, that's fine. I call that loving my wife and caring about her safety. Anywhere you want to go, any topic you want to cover.
Yeah, I think that the police wouldn't have been able to do very much about this. I don't know that they would have been able to do very much about the shooting a couple weeks ago, or for that matter, any of the other shootings that we've been hearing about. I mean, certainly police presence can I think stave off incidents like these, or at least send them somewhere else. But I don't think police presence would have necessarily stopped what happened here. This sounded somewhat personal. I think I definitely see inflation and the recession, whether it's here or not.
Cost of living, the wage gap, the education gap.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about rent prices, about how they're off the rails. Nobody, there's no, what's the word I'm looking for? There's no one to answer to. Everybody just sets prices based on prices.
Accountability.
Yeah, accountability, and I think that we're seeing some of the effects of that in the lower income sectors of the city. This is what happens when inflation starts going crazy, when people can't afford to live in the places they're used to living in, and when recession hits.
Sarah Hill Buchensky, that's a fair comment from Sarah Hill Buchensky. I said I may not feel comfortable with my wife having a girls' night and closing the bars down on a girls' night and then hailing an Uber home. And she responds, Jerry, your wife may not feel comfortable with a guy's night and closing down a bar in downtown Charlottesville. Fair comment. Well said, Sarah Hill Buchensky. I will give you props for that. In fact, I know my wife. She would not feel comfortable if I did that. And she also knows me well enough, and it's my biggest strength and my biggest weakness that I would probably do it anyway. But you're 100% right, SHB. 100% right. She would not feel comfortable with me doing it. Especially as a one-income family. Not that I think that's what she would prioritize first. I would think she certainly would prioritize the love that we have as a married couple. To your point about the police presence. With this particular incident, it's a murder. I don't want to call it incident. It's an alleged murder. Right?
Somebody died. Yes.
It's murder.
It was a murder.
Okay, so it's not alleged because he's dead, right? It's murder.
From the information we have, one of
murder, right?
the people died.
Right?
We don't know who died. It could have been the guy that ran into the restaurant. But sure.
Neil Williamson has this question for you. I'm going to relay this question to you so you can think of an answer. I will talk first before you think of the answer. I know you like to think about everything before offering perspective, which I value here. He says, Judah Wickower, and he's tagging you. Do you believe businesses are really raising prices just because, or is it a market response to inflation it is experiencing? Okay? Okay? And Carol Thorpe makes the comment, a stray bullet would make a widow of your wife, Jerry. If you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, tragedy can strike. Fair comment, Carol Thorpe. Very fair comment, Carol Thorpe. I'm just not one that lives his life with a mindset of, I guess fear is not even the right word, with thinking, tremendously cautious. Again, a fatal flaw and a biggest strength. You don't launch businesses like I've done when you're cautious. But some of the idiocy I've done in life is because I haven't been cautious. So fair points all around. To your point about the police presence, I agree with you that in this particular circumstance, one man hunting another man, the police presence may not have kept the hunting from transpiring.
Right.
However, if the man that was hunting this guy
knew that there was a larger police presence on the mall, he may have chosen to do it elsewhere.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And you got to give me that point.
I made that point myself.
Okay. That's the point I'm saying there. That's called perception management. That is called perception management, the business we're in. Say that again if you could, please. That's what I've been saying here. Judah also said it. Say it again.
If there was a larger police presence on the mall, then this guy may have chosen somewhere else to
murder somebody.
To carry out this act. That being said, it was 1 o'clock in the morning.
What does that mean?
That means how much police presence are you?
There's always been, I've been in Charlottesville for 22 years. And in the 22 years that I've been in this community, I'm choosing my words carefully. When I was a University of Virginia student on the UVA corner, using fake IDs to get into bars, you roll your eyes.
No.
I'm an open book. I've said it so many times here.
I know.
Fake New Jersey IDs to get in bars. Since I was a first year in Dabney 101, going to Coops, and then the Buddhist Biker Bar, the Biltmore, the Virginian, then St. Martin's, then Orbit's, coming out of those bars with my friends, pursuing the engagement or the conversation of beautiful young ladies, and then following that up with a potential Samson sub at Little John's, after hours, after last call, after the bars were closed. I always saw police officers on the corner, boots on the street with the nighttime patrol. I do not believe, and I will follow up and get this information from you, from the department, that there is a nighttime officer on the beat at last call or after midnight. When you don't have a beat presence in high density areas, especially high density areas where alcohol consumption is happening, you have trouble brewing. How many people have told you, how many parents have told you, how many coaches have told you, how many mentors have told you, nothing good happens after midnight? Have you ever heard that phrase?
Yeah, vaguely.
What's vaguely mean?
I mean, I've heard it somewhere. It's not like anyone's ever
I've been told that phrase so many times. Moms and dads, coaches. Have you heard that phrase, viewers and listeners? Nothing good happens after midnight? You want to answer Neil Williamson's question? Do you believe the businesses are really raising prices just because, or is it a market response to inflation that they're experiencing?
Well, if it sounded like I was implying that they're just raising prices to make more money, I hope that's not the case, because I think any raising of prices they've been doing has been in reaction to the recession, to inflation, and I'm certainly not blaming them for the actions of a few people running around Charlottesville with guns. But I do think that the overall effects of inflation and either here or looming recession do have do change the way people act and interact, and there may be some people in the poorer quarters who are, who knows what's going on here? Who knows if this was some guys in an illicit business who are rivals and...
Okay, are you talking gang violence?
Yeah.
Okay, just say it.
Okay.
I'm not trying to be... You're talking gang violence, right?
Something like that.
Now, why did you want to sidestep that phrase?
Just didn't come to me.
What's that?
Just didn't come to me.
Okay, all right.
I didn't think of gang violence. But
I mean, do you wonder if that's what's happening?
Could be. I'm not really here to speculate on stuff that I have no information about.
Lee Alberson calls this a crime of passion. If an individual gets into a personal altercation, they are likely getting upset in the heat of the moment. For this type of crime, the increased presence of police does not seem likely to prevent a crime of passion.
Yeah, that seems likely to me.
We call this a crime of passion?
If a guy runs into a restaurant...
This strikes me as premeditated murder. Hunting a man down a shopping and dining district?
Yeah, but your word is hunting. I don't know that unless you've read stuff that I haven't read, I don't know where that's coming from.
That's a word that's been passed on to me from folks that would know.
Okay.
Lisa Costello, thank you. She says, the community goes to this show to get the real deal of what's happening in Charlottesville. This is the only place that's doing it. Other media outlets won't touch what you report, Jerry. We try hard. Do we not work hard? Why do you think the other ones aren't touching this?
Because it just happened?
I think it's because they're severely short-staffed.
Exactly.
I think it's also because Charlottesville is such a small market that's a stepping stone market that you come here, work 18 months, and you better get another job after 18 months to 24 months because you're not going to afford to live here based on what the newspaper and the TV stations are paying you. And because you can't afford to live here based on what the newspapers and TV stations are paying you, you choose to immediately after getting a job climb the professional totem pole. Here's a great example. The executive director of the Charlottesville Police Civilian Review Board, Judah, Mr. Aguilar, the executive director of the Charlottesville Police Civilian Review Board, was making 6 figures plus, over 100 G, as the executive director of the Police Civilian Review Board. Within 7 months of being on the job, he pieced out. Within 7 months of being on the job, he started pursuing other professional endeavors. And then within a year of being on the job, he pieced out and headed to Berkeley, California, where he's making nearly 2x what he was making in Charlottesville.
I'm probably spending that on cost of life, too, but...
There's so many layers. This story is so dynamic. The story is so dynamic because it's influenced by cost of living. The story is so dynamic because it's probably influenced by the desensitization of violence associated with screen time. The story is so dynamic because it could be influenced by the lack of empathy associated with quarantining during COVID. This story is potentially influenced by gang violence. This story is potentially influenced by socioeconomic gaps. This story is potentially influenced by a lack of police presence. This story is potentially creates the collateral damage of a lack of tax revenue from food and beverage and lodging if the brand stigma becomes negative for the area. How many people are going to know about that are going to consider staying at the Omni Hotel? hey, 2 weekends ago there was a gunfight at the OK Corral at the parking lot at the Omni Hotel. And then the following weekend, in the shadows of the Omni Hotel, someone got murdered.
It's not a good look.
Not a good look. If you're the Omni Hotel, you better start, almost use an F word here. If you're the Omni Hotel, you better start figuring out a strategic advertising and marketing campaign to offset this. Friends of Seaville, I hope you got a plan. City Council, I hope you got a plan. Mercenary City Manager Michael Rogers, the consultant from the Robert Bob Group, I hope you got a plan. If anyone tells you that we should continue not offering financial resources to the Charlottesville Police Department, stop them in their tracks and say enough already. 28% vacancy rate for the CPD. Good God. Then you got the media dynamic where the story is going essentially unreported outside of a press release from the Charlottesville Police Department. That's the extent of the reporting. That press release you could find on the police department website. That's the extent of the reporting. Maybe Hall Spencer of the Daily Progress will do a deep dive on this, maybe. TV stations allocate 30 seconds in the nightly news to this. They're not going to do it. Then you got next year's collateral damage, budget time, where they start seeing retail revenue and food and beverage revenue and lodging revenue flatline or go negative, go southward. And they said, oh, we need some more money. Where's that money going to come from? Let's raise the real estate tax rate. And let's get some money on personal property. That's going to yield gentrification. And then you're going to be left with a cut to the chase. Want to hear some straightforward talk? A white and wealthy community that's even whiter and wealthier than it is right now. How's that for straight talk? Exactly, Rob Craig, because this story does not fit the media's narrative. That's exactly right, Rob. Exactly right. David Butler, Charlottesville's Market 183 for news, a farm system for larger markets. No real long-term vested interest in staying here. Reporting in our community, servicing real issues. David Butler, that was a damn good comment from you, David Butler. I'm going to respond to your comment. This show is literally airing on 80 social media channels at once. David Butler, I'm responding to you right now. David, excellent comment. Enter, publish, send it to David. 183, it's Market 183 for news. You get no institutional memory with your news departments. I worked at the Daily Progress. I worked at NBC 29. I worked at Monticello Media. Before I launched this business 15 years ago on May 28th, 2023, I worked at the #1 TV station, the only daily newspaper, and the locally owned radio group, Monticello Media. Paychecks from all of them. Also worked for ESPN Radio. 13 affiliates, 3 states airing our show. Bob Yarborough says this. The story is also influenced by the ease of access to firearms. You want to touch that one, J-Dubs?
I mean, that's always going to be true about any story involving guns. I don't particularly want to touch it. Don't know. I mean, yeah, it's true, but I don't know that it's particularly relevant in this case.
What does that mean?
I mean, what are you going to do? Enact new laws in central Charlottesville that are going to help stop this? I mean...
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And without knowing anything about the perpetrator, I mean, you know, this... Yes, that is a true statement, but if the guy doesn't have a... If a guy doesn't have a criminal record, then there might be no reason for him to have not been able to get a gun.
There you go. How about this comment that's being put on the feed? You ready for this one?
Okay.
What if the individual that was murdered, this is a what if. What if the individual that was murdered was a University of Virginia student? How would it be handled differently if the murdered individual was a University of Virginia student?
Well, it would definitely be in the news already.
Yeah. If the murdered individual was a University of Virginia student, 100% it would be in the news already. Maybe in the Washington Post or the Richmond Times-Dispatch and not just the local news.
We'd be talking about whether or not the campus police are doing their job rather than talking about whether the...
But this isn't their jurisdiction.
What?
This isn't their jurisdiction.
Oh, you're talking about if it was a UVA student that got shot in
On the downtown mall.
I gotcha.
Shot and murdered. That's why people are asking this in the feed.
I think there would definitely be more of an outcry.
100%.
Of course, we also don't know anything about any of the people involved here. It could very well be a UVA student.
It's not a UVA student.
I'm just saying, for all that we know, which is nothing about the identities, it could be.
What a mess. You got a lot of work. Can you speak to the, because you know this firsthand, the demise of a brand versus the reconstruction of a brand? How a brand very much quickly or in much quicker capacity can be negatively impacted.
And you think I'm the best one to speak on?
I mean,
it's the same thing as a personal brand, or your what's that saying about what is it? It takes, I don't know. I don't remember. Something about character, and anyways. Yeah, when people start believing something, people are just, I think, wired to believe what they hear, and something salacious like a personal failing or a business failing tend to spread much easier than and quicker than stories of a person or a company or a brand doing good things. And so yes, it's naturally harder to get your good name back after it's been dragged through the mud.
Bob Yarborough says we know who the individual killed was, Judah. What should we do?
Who's we?
I mean, the community does.
Okay. Well, they haven't. I don't know who it is. Let us know. Let us know where we can find the information.
I think media contact, the contact for media at the police department, Kyle Irvin. Kyle, I know you watched the show. Kyle, you're doing a great job, man. Kyle Irvin, the media contact, the public safety information officer for the Charlottesville Police Department. You are doing a great job, sir. Someone tell Kyle Irvin I said that if you're not watching right now. Are you watching right now, Kyle Irvin? Let me check. You're doing a great job, Kyle Irvin. Oh, man. Anything else you want to add?
Let's see. Kevin Yancey, I believe you do still need an ID to purchase a gun. Though I've never bought one myself. I do believe that you have to at least show ID, much less.
What's he saying?
In order to buy.
I can't keep up with these comments.
Kevin Yancey was saying, so in order to buy NyQuil now, you have to show an ID to purchase, but not at a gun show to buy a gun. I don't think that's correct. I could be mistaken.
You need an ID to buy a gun?
Yeah. I believe that is the
You
case.
can't buy a gun without an ID?
Yeah.
That's the comment?
I read you the comment. So in order to buy NyQuil now, you have to show an ID to purchase, but not at a gun show to buy a gun. Question mark, question mark, question mark. I don't think that's the case.
Ray Cadell says CPD has the audacity to say local citizens are in no danger. Then he says bullets flying equals danger, period. I'm going to respond to Ray's comment. Ray Cadell, I agree. Period, enter, publish. Oh, man. This is what I'll close with. We have been he says private sales require no ID. Kevin. Oh. This is what I'll close with. We are punch drunk with our own press clippings. Charlottesville in Central Virginia. And folks that live in Central Virginia who then say, I'm not going to Charlottesville or downtown, but they own a house in Central Virginia. Well, what happens in downtown Charlottesville directly drives or diminishes value in your home. If you live in Louisa or Crozet or Greenwood or Afton or Keswick or Ivy or Zion's Crossroads or Buckingham or Goochland or Barbersville or Forest Lakes or Hollymead, if you live on Lake Renovia in Redfields, in Winnington, if you live in Mill Creek, if you live in Foxcroft in Avinity, if you live in Belmont and North Downtown and Farmington and Keswick Estates, if you live in Glenmore, if you live in Oak Hill Farm, you live off Cherry Avenue, you live off 10th Street, 14th Street, Lexington Avenue, Locust Grove, and you make this comment, I'm not going to go downtown, this doesn't affect me, I'm protesting. Well, you're not in touch with the reality. Because what happens in a 10.2 square mile city and its crown jewel, the downtown mall, undoubtedly drives or diminishes the value of your number one asset, which is your house, and drives or diminishes the value of your job and the pay raises or lack thereof your employer can afford. So I don't want to hear that I'm boycotting downtown Charlottesville, because that's not real, dude. That's not real. What happens here undoubtedly is associated with you, even if you live not in the city or close to downtown. So let's debunk that stigma or get over that myth. Please. We've been so punch drunk with our press clippings and the best place to live in America and the best place to live in the world and the best place to do this and the best place to do that. The second biggest wedding venue on the East Coast, University of Virginia this, mountains and hiking and mountain biking that, breweries and vineyards and wineries this, and tech incubator of the East Coast that we are seduced and blinded by positive praise. And we've been so seduced and blinded by positive praise in our own punch-drunk press clippings that we have not seen, or maybe we chose to ignore, that gun violence has become a very real issue in the city. And until we realize that gun violence just took the life of someone 36 hours ago, that gun violence is literally taking place in broad daylight around 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon in an OK Corral gunfight in a parking lot of a $500 a night hotel, until we realize that, we're not in touch with reality and can't fix the problem. And the problem may be kids not understanding the values of their actions or having piss poor parenting. Or maybe the problem is teenagers seeing too many gunfights and gunshots and too much violence on their smartphones and being desensitized by screen time. Or maybe the problem is a lack of empathy and emotional intelligence in a post-COVID world where we spent a year and a half, almost 2 years out of schools, learning how to interact with one another from a golden rule standpoint. Maybe the problem is inflation and the fact that folks cannot afford to put food on their plate, pay their rent, keep their kids warm and clothed, and keep their electricity on. Maybe the problem is the wealth gap in the city in Albemarle County, where a large portion of the city in Albemarle County is doing nothing but servicing the rich people and then driving 50 minutes to their houses that they can't afford. Maybe the problem is gentrification, piss poor leadership, or a 28% vacancy rate in the Charlottesville Police Department. No boots on the street means more brazen criminals. Maybe it's all of the above. Sounds like some anthropology and sociology to me. Until we start facing that stuff, crime, murders, and felonious activity happens in the number one place to live in America, we're not going to fix it. And if we don't fix it quick, we're going to have much more whitened wealth in the area, much more gentrification, and even more collateral damage. And if you want to have little pockets of violence, a la Los Angeles and downtown LA, where you have an 8 or 9 block radius, where people are living tents, eating out of garbages, having open air drug markets, and the violence is just contained to 8 blocks. If you want something like that, I certainly don't. We better fix it quick. And from my standpoint, how you fix it is you invest in the police, you invest in narrowing the educational gap, you invest in knowledge, science, technology, engineering, math. You invest in teaching locals computer coding. You invest in taking populations in the city and Albemarle County that are on the financial margin, and you figure out a way to champion and empower them. Maybe that's early access to daycares that currently are not happening. But if you don't start fixing this, and fixing it quick, the collateral damage of what's in store is going to be like this tanker ship. And this tanker ship is going to be heading down the Rivanna River or the James River or the Atlantic Ocean. And it's so big and it's so heavy and it's so full of momentum, tailwind momentum, that you can't pivot or change its course quickly. And it's going to take years to get the metaphorical tanker back in the direction we need it to go. I'm Jerry Miller, and this is the I Love CVille Show.